Now I'm joined by Eoghan Corry, the editor of TravelExtra.ie. There's definitely a perception, Eoghan, that, as the flight cancellations were unfolding, that the Irish authorities were struggling to deal with Ryanair, and that it did take the UK aviation authorities' intervention to bring them to heel, to get Ryanair to behave. Is that fair?
I don't think it's fair at all, Mary. The UK regulator, Andrew Haines, behaves in a different way, didn't engage with the airline, did a lot of press grandstanding, appearing on television, radio. He did, it's not an Irish airline. It is actually, he has been very slow to move on the likes of EasyJet and British Airways when they've had big cancellations. He's been very vociferous when it comes to Irish airlines, 2 years ago in the case of Aer Lingus, and now in the case of Ryanair. Several times in the past in the case of Ryanair, he's been making statements saying that if they could, they would take the routes off Ryanair, they would try and prevent them operating in the English market, all of those sort of things. While Cathy Mannion was doing exactly as she told the Oireachtas Committee, meeting Ryanair and getting this over the line, what we saw was public, a big deadline that Ryanair had to meet, and when actually Cathy Mannion got the results off Ryanair, Andrew Haines was then claiming that he was the one who got it. Nothing could be further from the truth. What Cathy Mannion did was correct.
But sometimes, the optics are important, and from a passenger perception, it seemed that the UK authority was on their side, was out there fighting for them.
Cathy Mannion was out there fighting for them. The optics are important, you say. The reality is that, spin was what the CIA were into and were pursuing and putting their energy into preparing the spin for the exact reasons that you say. Like, everybody sits back and says, oh, isn't he great? In fact, Andrew Haines didn't achieve this. It was Cathy Mannion who achieved it, and she was there, being told by members of the Oireachtas that the London, it's an Irish airline, and she's the one who regulates this airline. She's the one who looks after the passenger interests for the Irish airline. And she's been told by members of the Irish Oireachtas that somebody in London got it because he was the one, doing all the microphone stuff. It really, really doesn't wash. It's actually must be very frustrating for Cathy Mannion to hear that sort of allegation being made against her, those sort of things being said about her.
But, the office did make the point, Ryanair should have contacted the office earlier, and yet there's no way to compel the airline to report problems at an earlier stage. Is that something that needs changing?
The way it works is that the EU regulation is in place, and their job is enforcement of it. Now, like all people who are enforcing consumer legislation, there really isn't a process where somebody with a problem comes to them first and flags the problem to them. What the aviation industry has been doing in the many years since 2004, since EU 261 has been in place, have been testing the boundaries. Ryanair are not alone in pushing the one point, the really crucial point, and let's not lose sight of it. The really crucial point in what Ryanair did over the last couple of weeks was they didn't allow passengers to use other airlines. They were quite specific that they wanted people to rebook on a Ryanair flight. They didn't want to have someone come back and say, oh, the only available flight was the Lufthansa business class, the only available restaurant was the Michelin star, and start putting in massive bills for that. But the reality is that the way the pendulum has been swinging with consumer legislation has been that on any airline in the situation Ryanair was in, and this happens quite regularly, Ryanair are not alone in this, they really have to offer consumers the option of flying with another airline. And quite interestingly, that's what Ryanair eventually did. And when they did it, they specified the low-cost airlines that they wanted their customers to use as an alternative. That's really, really, really where Ryanair were slow in responding. And that's probably the biggest question Cathy Mannion was putting to them behind closed doors.
Should Michael O'Leary have shown up before the committee today? He said in that letter when he declined to come that he regretted the disruption. Come, say that. Take it on the chin.
Yeah, it's not like Michael O'Leary to miss an opportunity to get near an open microphone. It was a bit like Hamlet without the prince. But what we've seen from him has been he kept the head down, emerged for a very public press conference, came out stridently, decisively, said, put the case to the media and put the case to consumers that we had this huge problem which we had to solve, and we were decisive about it. And that's probably the message he's managed to put out there, and that's probably why he is very reluctant to make any further appearances that might negate that message.
Okay.
We won't be seeing or hearing from anybody in Ryanair for a little while to come,
right.
I would imagine.
Eoghan Corry, editor of travelextra.ie, thank you.